Oh, I like that. That was easy. Everybody just got right to it. That means it's a group of people who are ready to get to work. My name is Jamal Simmons, and I am here today to serve as your MC for the afternoon. We've got a bunch of great presentations for you to go through. I know you all are eagerly anticipating. I just want to open up by thanking all the people who've been working on this project so much. Sergio and Jacqueline who are here, and April and Yasmin and Sally and all the group who have really been pounding away at this for so long. So thank you. I am very humbled to be a part of this. I've been able to be helpful in small ways over the course of the last year or so as part of the team at the Raven Group and DeCanto Group who have been working on this project. And to be here with all of you reminds me of just how important, as we get focused on the numbers, you'll see a lot of numbers and slides and data that drive this. But as I learned from Sergio, who when we first met, really laid out the importance of this work and what it means to people. And as focused as we are on the data and the numbers, we can't lose track of the fact that we're all here because we believe that we've got to create a system of health that really does make life better for individuals, for people in our country and in the state. So I want to thank you all for letting me be a part of this. First, I would like to bring up Jacqueline Martinez. Jacqueline is a senior program director for the New York State Health Foundation. She has a central role in developing the foundation's program areas, identifying emerging opportunities and strategic niches, building partnerships, creating musical interludes that I'm getting over here in my ear, but identifying emerging opportunities and strategic niches, building partnerships with other foundations, ensuring the quality of programs and grantees. Ms. Martinez has more than 10 years of experience in managing and developing community-based health programs for medically underserved communities throughout New York City. So please welcome Jacqueline.
I know your agenda says Dr. James Nickman. I don't look like him, I don't sound like him, and in my effort to try and find a costume that looked like him, I failed miserably. So bear with me for the next 20 minutes. Our doors opened, the New York State Health Foundation's doors opened back in 2006. I've actually had the privilege of working with Dr. Nickman over these past 5 years, trying to figure out strategies to really improve the health of New Yorkers. When we got started with $300 million in the bank and really an open slate in terms of how do we use that money to improve the health of New York. And we had a really large mission. Our statute that set us up wanted us to expand coverage, improve access, and strengthen community and public health. So the question for us is, how do we really make a tangible impact across those three areas? So we sat around a room and figured out that we needed to identify areas where we can actually measure the investments and see whether or not the work that the foundation would fund would actually yield results. So we chose three specific areas: improving diabetes care, expanding coverage because it was part of our statute. We were set up when Blue Cross Blue Shield converted from a non-for-profit to a for-profit. And then the third area was integrating substance use and mental health. Across all three areas, our number one mantra was spreading best practices. How do we identify the things that have already been shown to work, and how do we take them to scale? That's how we arrived at community health workers. The whole idea of community health workers didn't fit neatly in one of our priority areas. It actually cut across all three areas. Finding people to get them covered for health care, finding them to actually get them into a medical home, and you'll hear these terms thrown out throughout today, but the question is, how do we find the people who need the care most? How do we build relationships with these people to help them actually manage their health? And there's no one better to do that work than community health workers. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Kellogg Foundation, HRSA, HHS, there had been multiple millions of dollars poured into identifying how community health workers actually do their work and how they actually perform well at doing their work. And they were able to decrease both the cost of inappropriate use of care, so usage of emergency room, usage of specialty care, and really get people into preventive and primary care. So the two main issues that our nation and our state were struggling with in terms of improving care and reducing costs were the two things that we knew community health workers were good at. So how did we arrive at today? It's actually a really fun story to tell, and I didn't realize that it's summarized nicely in the report. But Sergio Matos and I, and a good friend, Romelia, who I hope is here today, we were actually at the American Public Health Association nearly 3 years ago this week in San Diego, California. We decided to meet over breakfast. We had both spent years, actually a decade at that point, working on the whole role of community health workers and trying to figure out a way to really bring this workforce together to raise the visibility of the role that they can play and the effectiveness of their role in our healthcare system. With my new role at the New York State Health Foundation, I really wanted to work with Sergio and Romelia to figure out a way where we can actually take this field to another level in New York State. And actually, it was on a piece of a napkin that we actually outlined the 3 important questions that we needed to ask ourselves. What is the scope of work of community health workers? How do we define them? How do hospitals define them? How do community-based organizations define their scope of work? How does the community health center use community health workers? The next question for us is, how do we standardize the core competencies for training for community health workers? As a funder, 2 years into our work, we had already invested up to $2 million into community health worker programs. The programs were now coming to an end, which meant that the community health worker role was coming to an end. And there goes that money we had spent in training and development out the door, because too many community health worker programs depend on soft money, on grant funding. Once the grant funding ends, the community health worker program ends, and that's an unfortunate investment. Even as a funder, it just goes to waste. All the good things that were established now are no longer there. So the question of training and development was an important one. And the third one is, how do we figure out financing for community health workers does not depend on grant funding? Those were the 3 guiding questions that led to today, and it was on that piece of napkin. The next thing that we needed to do was to get other funders on board. About 3 months after that conversations with Sergio and Romelia in California, I actually met with the program director at the Kellogg Foundation, actually a block away at Niles Restaurant over breakfast, and in a napkin, we wrote out the things that we can accomplish together. And it was important for the Kellogg Foundation to come alongside us, because this is not a state question, this is a national issue. Defining the role of community health workers and embedding them into our healthcare system is a national issue. The Kellogg Foundation got it. They took the napkin, we turned it into a proposal, they took it to their board, it got approved. Now, I tell you that story for 2 reasons. Number one, it was the relationships between the CHW network of New York City, the New York State Health Foundation actually got this initiative up and running. And number two, for all of you that are in this room trying to figure out how does foundation work, let me demystify it to you. Conversation, a napkin, and a proposal. Very simple. And then you have to just make the case. The case here was, we know how to reduce costs, we know how to improve outcomes. Let's figure out a way to bring the workforce and bring it to scale. How do we embed community health workers across hospitals, across health centers, and across community-based organizations? I want to end with a couple of just key facts for you. In the United States, we spend over $2.3 trillion. Let me say that again, $2.3 trillion in healthcare. $2.3 trillion in healthcare. Most of us can't even fathom how much money that really is. In New York State, we spend over $126 billion. I had to write these numbers down because they're even hard to articulate. $126 billion in healthcare spending. And I just have to draw the analogy. I mean, the movie The Moneyball, great movie. How many have seen it in this room? By raise of hand. Not too many people. Go see the movie, Moneyball, great movie. And here's the analogy between baseball and healthcare. In baseball, the Yankees, whom I'm a big fan of, how many Yankee fans in the room? Okay, pretty depressed. They didn't make it this year, but yet their payroll actually adds up to $214 million, and they didn't even make it into the playoffs. Very sad point. The 2 teams that are in the World Series right now, half of what they spend in their payroll, and they're in the World Series today. Healthcare, we can't spend more money. More money is not going to find us better care. We've had it wrong. We've had the equation wrong. And can I just tell you that the percentage has increased by almost 10% since the time that we started thinking about Medicaid managed care, managing care within HMOs, and yet look at us today. We've increased our spending. So what we've been doing in the past just is not working. It ain't working, as they say in the streets. It ain't working. We have to figure out a better strategy. And community health workers offers us that strategy. So today, you're gonna hear about these recommendations. It's the work that has culminated that April Hicks, Yasmin Legendra, and Sergio Matos, and Sally Findley have worked diligently and tirelessly over, I'm talking about days and nights, talking to people, traveling through the state, traveling across the nation, getting ideas from folks and bringing it together, and with the help of many of you in the room, to prepare this report. But the real question for us today is, how do we take these recommendations and make them work in New York State? How do we take New York and put it back as an innovative state and take what we already know works and take it to scale? We have plenty of opportunities to work with. You'll hear my voice again later on during the panel when I'm talking about health homes and patient-centered medical homes. But now's the time. If we can't figure this out now, we've lost the opportunity. We've lost the momentum. So I urge you, as you listen in, as you take in this information, let's try and figure this out together. How do we take these recommendations and institutionalize them in the places that we work in and really convince the larger payers, the insurers who really actually have something to benefit here, to invest in the role of community health workers. I thank you all for being here today. I look forward to a productive conversation and a meaningful dialogue. Thank you.
So I feel like this is a cheap room to try to get a Yankees applause line in. I'm from Detroit myself, so some of you might not feel so good about that. I spend a lot of my days talking about politics and being involved in politics in Washington, D.C. and on some of the TV shows. And when you spend a lot of time around politicians, you learn to sort of smell sincerity from people. Anybody here ever spend some time around politicians? And more often you smell insincerity than you smell sincerity. But the guy I'm going to bring up next is somebody who you just get nothing but sincerity from this brother. And I call him that on purpose because when I first met him, as I talked about earlier, he was the one who really made everyone focus, really made everyone stay intently grounded in the real life implications of the work that so many people in this room do. So he's got this wonderful resume of 25 years of experience, and co-founder and executive director of the Community Health Worker Network of New York City. He currently works as director for Community Health Worker Training and Development at Columbia's Mailman School of Public Health. He's a true champion for community health workers in the state, but you all know him. He is Sergio Matos.
Good morning, everybody. Is it still morning? No, it's not. Good afternoon. I wish you could stand here and see how beautiful you look. Welcome. Welcome to Driving Change and Changing Lives. Before I make my remarks, I want to take a moment and I need to thank some of the people that made this possible. First of all, I want to thank all CHWs who are here and all CHW employers and supporters and allies. Thank you for coming and joining us today. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the generous support of Jacqueline at the New York State Health Foundation and Jim Nickman, and the folks at the Kellogg Foundation that supported us for these past 2 years. Please let them have a hand of applause. And I need for you to know that this initiative was not a small one. It was ambitious, overly ambitious at the start, but we did it and we accomplished it only because we have extraordinary partners in this initiative. And I want to mention those partners because it wasn't just the CHW Network of New York City certainly was a partner in this effort. But Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health has been an enormous, enormous partner in this. Sally, thank you so much for all that you bring and for making this possible. I don't know how you do it, but you're amazing. Thank you so much. And I also need to mention the Community Health Worker Association of Rochester, which is also a partner in this initiative and has really partnered with the downstate, with our local organization here, to launch this statewide initiative in New York State, the very first time that the Empire State has ever had a statewide professional association of community health workers. And so may I ask the Board of Directors of CHW to please be recognized. And although we certainly thank the New York State Health Foundation for their financial support, I have to say that I've worked on many grants and contracts, and this has been one of the most extraordinary and unusual relationships that I've ever had with a funder. You know, some funders give you money and tell you, give me a report in 6 months or a year, you know, best wishes, see you later. That's not what the New York State Health Foundation did. They really, in a very genuine and authentic way, really served as a partner for us. They really gave us extraordinary in-kind support, assigned staff specifically to help us with our efforts, and lent their position in the world to support our efforts and give us visibility and recognition. And so for Jasmine, God, I don't know. You have grounded me so often when I was about to lose my mind. But thank you to the foundation for all of that support too. And then, there's a lot of people to thank, but I got to do it. You know, the broadness, the reach of this effort was so enormous and so much more than we had ever attempted that we really needed extraordinary support and guidance in this effort. There were many times when we might lose our focus and be driven by very powerful forces out there that were trying to reshape our vision and our mission. And it was really crucial for us to have a discrete message and live with it and stick to it and commit with it and accomplish it. And that would have been really, really hard, maybe not even possible, without the support of the Rabin Group and the Docanto Group. You guys, I just don't know, we would have been lost in Neverland if you guys hadn't really insisted and demanded that we develop our message and that we stick to it. So I need to thank Lisi, Robert, Jamal, Sharu, Haley, Jonathan, and Donald for all that you've done for us. Thank you all. And then there are two very specific individuals that I want to thank, and they are Andy Nieto and his crew, Patricia Peretz and Emilio Carrillo, who are at New York Presbyterian Hospital and have been staunch advocates of CHWs for many years, have developed a business model which is on the leading edge of financial modeling for CHW work. And I thank you, and from the bottom of my heart, I am so happy that I work in your area and can see you as often as I do. And we really applaud your support for the CHW workforce. Thank you. And lastly, I need to thank my dear friend Doug Reach and his crew of CHWs. Dr. Reach runs a family medicine department, and you'll hear from him later this afternoon. But Dr. Reach has just made an incredible commitment, not only to hiring CHWs, I see a lot of them here in the center of the room, not only to hire them, but to really, really bring them into his department, to really make them an integral part with respect and dignity and position and support in a medical setting, which is extraordinary, it's unique, and we need to thank you, Doug. Thank you. Got your crew back there. All right, and above all else, I really, really need to thank these three individuals because for the last 2 years, we've worked with them day to day. They have saved me when I was falling apart. I've been able to support them when they were falling apart. None of this would ever be possible without April Hicks. Yasmine Legendre, and Sally Findley. I'm just getting started.
Thought that was the whole thing.
So this is the 7th time that we've had a CHW conference in New York City. The last 6 conferences were called Outreach NYC conferences, and many of you present might remember some of those, or maybe all of them, if you've come to all of them. The Community Health Worker Network of NYC originally formed as an ad hoc organization. We started informally gathering in 2000 and 2001. In 2002, a year after we started meeting, our founding members decided to hold a conference, our first conference. I thought they were crazy. We had no money, few contacts, and little time. But the part that I forgot, of course, is that they were CHWs. And when CHWs put their mind to something, well, you better either get on or get out of the way. So we were at Hunter College at the time, and they got Hunter to let us use some space there. And those CHWs in our nascent CHW network really did the rest. They got the word out, they secured speakers, they got organizations to donate their services for afternoon nurturing activities. They had decided at that time that we would have a conference in the morning, and then in the afternoon we had, we had makeup classes, we had yoga, we had dance classes, we wanted to have some nurturing activities in the afternoon, because we know how hard CHWs work all the time. We didn't want to work the whole day. We wanted to nurture too. They printed up a program, they cooked food, they brought food in and fed the people. I mean, amazing. One of the ladies even made capias, and I think she might be here today. One of the ladies made capias for the speakers. It was amazing. And one of the guys in the network even actually went to a restaurant and got a restaurant to donate bagels. So we had bagels in the morning. It was amazing. So we put on a conference. We put on a conference for 120 people, mostly CHWs that year. And we spent $125 at that conference. And the only reason we had to spend $125 was because the coffee machine exploded in the morning. And so we had to run out and buy coffee from a local vendor. But if not for that, we wouldn't have even spent that. So in a very real sense, they really pulled this off on a hope and a prayer, and just a resolute belief in their potential, unshakable. So yeah, our beginnings were simple, but our drive was always elegant. We always had each other, and we had a dream. You're going to hear about dreams today. We had a dream. We dreamt of having a conference for CHWs. Every other profession had conferences. Why not us? We dreamt of an event where we could invite CHWs to come together to learn what's going on in our field. We wanted CHWs to be able to meet colleagues and witness the richness and diversity of our workforce. We wanted CHWs to be able to network, share stories, challenges, and successes. We wanted CHWs to know that they were not alone, that they were part of a larger workforce. But above all else, we wanted to recognize CHWs. We wanted an event where CHWs could realize the importance of our work, where CHWs would be praised and treated with dignity. We wanted a place where CHWs would be honored. This conference will be a little more diverse in that it will include some of the more technical aspects that we've been working on to advance our workforce and establish workforce standards. But before we get too technical, please give me a few more minutes of your time, because we still hold true to that dream. I want to tell you 2 stories. One of them is published, actually, in a scientific journal. It's in last month's edition of the Journal for Ambulatory Care Management. And it's the story of Maria Murphy. After working with community health worker Maria Murphy to secure a state ID for her Medicaid application, one client's nephew came to the hospital demanding that Maria be given a raise, saying that Maria had saved his aunt's life. For another patient, Maria's community ties, knowledge, and commitment provided entry to a complicated healthcare system and provided a valuable friendship. I am very happy since Maria has been coming to my house, the patient said. We talk about different things, how I eat, how to cook better, Sometimes we go out and do other things. I love her. What we do is amazing, Maria says about her profession as a community health worker. She works at the family medicine department of Bronx Lebanon Hospital in New York City. Now, not everyone can do this work, but if you can, you're blessed. If you run a hospital and if you care about the people who come in here, then how could you not offer this CHW service? Born and raised in Puerto Rico, Maria came to the United States at the age of 13 with her parents and 9 siblings and settled in New York City. Leaving friends and family for the promise of a new land, Maria embraced possibilities as she struggled with a language and a culture she did not know or understand. Struggles that strengthened her character and contributed to the determined community health worker she would become. Looking for an internship to complete her education, Maria happened upon a position for a CHW job. I didn't realize I would get the job, but I figured even if I could volunteer and learn, it would be great, Maria said. Completely to her surprise, she was offered the job as a CHW. I'm a CHW here and I love it, Maria reports. I work in diabetes, yeah, but we do more than diabetes, that's for sure. We wear a lot of hats, really. To do this, you really have to be passionate. And you have to have empathy. You have to want to understand people. You have to be driven to make a difference. I mean, you can't change the whole world, but if you can make a difference in one person's life, imagine how many others that person can touch, even in their own families. So you start a chain reaction, and that's amazing. To know you can help people become empowered is wonderful. Patient after patient validate Maria's work in her community and her decision to become a CHW. Since I met Maria, I have more confidence and knowledge about my condition, says another patient. She shows me that she cares. She's interested. She asks me a lot of questions, but I like that she does not tell me what to do. She's like my mother, and I respect everything she says. Maria's eyes sparkle. I found meaning in this work, and I'm proud of the work that I do, she says. Maria Murphy.